Tunner's eyes say, "Don't try me," and his silence says, "I mean it." He wears that sheriff's hat like a badge of honor or a warning sign. He does not smile. He does not need to. He didn't say a word, just showed the revolver. No panic, no rush, just that same blank face and a weapon that means business. Sheriff Tunner doesn't threaten. He demonstrates consequences. Phase 2 is not rage, it's resignation. Tunner has been disarmed, wounded, and humiliated, but he wears it like another badge. His hat, once proud, now has a bullet hole right where hope used to be. Blood trickles, but he doesn't wipe it off. He knows the next move isn't his yet. The sheriff's balance is off. His eye alignment even worse, but he's still here. His hat now wears a red badge of suffering, and the blood keeps trickling like a broken promise. He tilts his head, not in confusion, but calculation. Even wounded, Tunner thinks. That is what makes him dangerous. The sheriff is gone, but the vessel remains. Tunner's face is torn open, patched by tape and shadows, dripping in endless red. His single eye glows with exhaustion and something far more ancient. Wrapped in ropes and footprints, he looks like a cursed monument. And maybe he is. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 3.5, the lawman is now legend, stitched in red and silence. Green tape clamps down on a mouth that once gave orders, now only secrets remain. His eye is wide, his face melting into something less than human. The rope is tighter than justice ever was, and justice never bled this much. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 4, the final form of a man too stubborn to die and too broken to return. One eye out, one thought left, and it's not friendly. He tilts like a puppet with its strings cut halfway. The tape is still there, but words are no longer the danger. It's what he's become in the silence. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 4.5, the brain is showing, the soul is not. Blood paints his face like a signature he never meant to leave. His eyes are empty, red-rimmed and bottomless. The tape is gone, but the silence has only grown louder. He's not broken, he's finished. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 5, a final shape carved from agony and persistence. The blood never dries, the brain never rests, the gaze never focuses. He's bound by rope, not to keep him still, but to remind him he once had form. You can't talk to him. You can only hope he doesn't turn your way. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 6. The form is gone, but the eye remains. His body is a pillar of blood, rising like a monument to unresolved violence. Nothing speaks anymore, yet silence has weight. One eye is black, the other stretched in eternal alert. He is the moment just before something worse arrives. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 7, a sheriff's hat now crowns an open skull, exposed like a peeled machine. One eye droops, the other has vanished into darkness. His brain glows, unnatural and mechanical, like it's still processing commands. There's blood, yes, but now it's systematic. He's not dying, he's updating. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 8, hanging by a thread, brain first. His body is upright, but the logic is broken. His head drips downward like wax. There's no voice, no expression, only gravity dragging him through what remains. A sheriff no more, he's become a cursed pendulum, and it still swings. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 9, his form is now purely symbolic. No features, no identity, just blood and bones posed in the shape of what he once was. The top of his head is carved open like an offering bowl. His stance is frozen, but the message is loud. This is what happens when something keeps going long after it should stop. He's not here, but what's left remembers. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 9.5, now just a hanging wound in space. Whatever shape he once had has melted into unrecognizable horror. There's a hook, there's a thread, and there's the slow dripping of something unspeakable. He doesn't swing by force. He swings because the world wants to forget. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 10, the final phase, where death is too old to matter. His flesh hangs like a warning, bones aligned in impossible geometry. The hat crowns his remains like a throne of decay. Needles, wires, and blades pulse with dim, awful life. He doesn't want justice anymore. He wants symmetry. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 11, the sheriff's hat is back, but it no longer means protection. One eye is artificial, too red to be alive. His skin looks clean, but you know it's painted over something far worse. He smiles without emotion, like someone who remembers pain but no longer feels it. He is not broken, he is finalized. Sheriff Tunner. Phase 12, the face is still his, but drained of self. His hat tilts awkwardly, as if ashamed to rest on such a ruin. His mouth gapes, not in pain, but in pure absence. Blood seeps from void-like marks on his cheeks. He is not feeling, he is residue. Durple in Phase 1 is a hug-loving dragon mutant with the soul of a sleepy potato. His horns are just for decoration like festive party hats he forgot to take off. He speaks 3 languages: yawn, blink, and snack. His special move? Standing still until everyone feels weird, then offering gum. Durple in Phase 1.5 just saw a balloon for the first time. He doesn't know whether to scream, fly, or hug it. His face says, "What is this round floating miracle?" Every scale on his purple body is vibrating with excitement. This phase is pure magic, raw, happy, slightly chaotic magic. Durple in Phase 2 has evolved into a purple celebration machine. His mouth doesn't close anymore, it's too busy shouting compliments at passing pigeons. He glows slightly, smells like blueberries, and speaks in riddles that sound like pop songs. He might bite not out of anger, just curiosity. This is peak Durple, and the universe isn't ready. Durple in Phase 2.5 isn't smiling anymore. There is no mouth to smile with. His expression froze between shock and surrender, and his skin seems darker now, as if the color is draining away. He looks at you like he's trying to say something, but nothing comes. Something inside him shifted, and it isn't coming back. Durple in Phase 3 is now 90% neck and 100% unsettling. His grin stretches like a promise no one made, and his wiggly body moves like a possessed balloon animal. He doesn't bite, he just shows his teeth like he forgot how to frown. His happiness is louder than sound. Don't ask what he wants, just smile back or try. Durple in Phase 3.5 isn't loud anymore. He doesn't need volume to be terrifying. His body is sleek, his color deep like the bottom of the ocean, and his mouth curves with unnatural peace. There's no sound, no twitch, just a constant smile with no warmth behind it. His horns may be small, but the fear he brings is massive. He doesn't chase, he waits. Durple in Phase 4 is no longer a dragon, he's a shape, a sound, a whisper with teeth. His body folds in ways the eye doesn't want to follow, and his smile pulses like a signal. Every movement is playful. Every presence is wrong. Phase 4 doesn't end. It loops. Durple in Phase 4.5 is the final joke told after the cartoon ends. His horns are barely there, his eyes reflect nothing, and his smile curves like a trap. He doesn't speak, the grin is the message. His body twists without joints, as if he's laughing at rules that no longer apply. Phase 4.5 isn't the end, it's the part that keeps going, even when you turn off the screen. Durple in Phase 5 is the end of the smile. His grin has split too wide, bleeding red into the edges of himself, while thorns spiral out like memories turned sharp. He still tilts his head, still curls, still watches, but none of it feels right anymore. He used to be funny, now he's only sharp. Durple in Phase 5.5 is no longer himself, only the memory of hunger shaped in purple. His mouth forms a triangle, sharp and wide, where only 3 perfect fangs remain. Spikes burst from his spine like the remains of something once soft. The eye is now a tunnel not looking out, but pulling you in. Durple is not dead. He's just waiting to finish. Durple in Phase 6 is the moment a nightmare realizes it exists. The teeth are too many, the eye is too red, the body is too wrong to remember what it once was. This is what happens when fear puts on a smile. Durple in Phase 7 isn't scary anymore, he's tired. His teeth are sharp, yes, but the grin says, "I've seen worse." The spikes are ceremonial now, and the smoke in his mouth replaces fire. His laugh is dry. He's not here to hurt you, he's just waiting for credits to roll. Durple in Phase 8 isn't here to haunt, he is the haunting. With his single red eye, he no longer sees, he remembers. His spikes are not weapons, they're warnings. The tongue tastes what time forgets. Phase 8 isn't the end, it's what begins after. Durple in Phase 9 exists where sound stops and fear becomes geometry. His body slithers like a math problem that hates you. Horns reach outward, claws cling inward, and the grin is so wide it curves into meaninglessness. That one great eye, it sees the script, and it doesn't approve. Durple in Phase 10 carries the blade like a crown. His flesh didn't yield it, welcomed the steel. The laughter hasn't stopped, it only echoes deeper now. Even pierced, even bloodied, he stands because someone still believes he can fall. That belief is the funniest thing he's ever heard. Durple in Phase 11 is made entirely of blade and grin. His jaw creaks as it opens, not from pain but from too much eagerness. The spikes on his back twitch in rhythm with the throb of a monstrous hunger. He is no longer chasing prey, he's just waiting for someone to speak so he can interrupt with teeth. Durple in Phase 12 no longer remembers which head was first. One speaks lies, one laughs truths, and one simply watches. The lower jaw never shuts, it twitches, full of words it can't form. His body is no longer made of logic. Phase 12 is what happens when identity dissolves into appetite. Mr.Sun shone so brightly, it felt as if the whole world belonged to him. His round face looked simple, but that simplicity itself was frighteningly perfect. The rays around him seemed like arms, ready to embrace anyone. He often played a game, moving his rays like fingers, shaping figures with them. Every morning, his glow greeted everyone with the same cheerful brightness. Looking at his smile was both pleasant and strangely uncanny. At times, it seemed too still, like a mask. Mr. Sun's body shifted an eye, stretched unnaturally across his face. It blinked slowly, as if awakening from a nightmare he could not escape. The dark mark inside him pulsed like a second mouth, ready to swallow. Every laugh he gave echoed with an empty metallic ring. Children once smiled at him, but now they hid from his gaze. His rays looked like blades, cutting the horizon with every twitch. The light he gave was no longer life. It was hunger. Mr. Sun's transformation was undeniable, his joy replaced by an endless stare. The eye consumed his entire face, wide and unfeeling. It rotated slowly, following anyone who dared look at him. He discovered a new hobby, watching dreams while creatures slept. Those who awoke swore they saw his eye inside their rooms. The warmth of his light burned away, leaving only a cold vigilance. The sun was no longer a guardian, it was a predator of minds. Mr. Sun's transformation grew worse. His rays melted into twitching tendrils. 3 crimson eyes burned where his calm face once was. They locked on to whoever moved, following with predatory precision. He began whispering back to people, using their own voices against them. At night, echoes of conversations filled the air, though no one was speaking. His grin widened, teeth forming where none had been before. The sun had turned into a puppet master of sound and fear. Mr. Sun's transformation was complete. He became an eye in endless night. His light, once warm, had turned into a suffocating black glow. The eye widened and contracted, like a living creature breathing. He collected nightmares, pulling them from the minds of the weak. Each scream only made his gaze brighter, more terrifying. The world beneath him shivered in silence, afraid to look up. The sun had become the perfect void. Mr. Sun had become an empty outline, a hole shaped like a star. The edges bled with faint red, like wounds in the sky. Within, something shifted forms, crawling, merging, then disappearing again. His favorite pastime was weaving these shadow creatures and sending them to wander. They had no bodies, only shapes of despair, dissolving when touched. Yet their whispers lingered in ears long after they were gone. The sun had become a doorway, and nightmares passed freely through. Mr. Sun had become a blade of night, his rays sharp enough to cut silence. In the center, his vertical eye burned with lifeless gray light. The stare was endless, swallowing courage from anyone who met it. He found pleasure in hunting dreamers, binding their visions into cages. Inside those cages, nightmares grew and fed on themselves. Every scream inside the dream world echoed back into reality. The sun was not a star anymore, it was a prison. Mr.Sun had become nothing but vision, pure and merciless. The giant eye floated in silence, radiating a chill that froze hope. Every line around it writhed, reaching like claws toward unseen prey. He played a new game, pulling voices from the waking world into dreams. People awoke to hear whispers that did not belong to them. The boundary between reality and nightmare was shredded under his gaze. The sun had become the gatekeeper of terror. Mr.Sun had become a watcher of all, a god of eyes. The central gaze swallowed sanity, while the smaller ones sought weakness. Each eye reflected horrors no one else could see. He enjoyed projecting false images into minds, twisting reality like a toy. Some saw loved ones turn into monsters. Others saw endless voids. His laughter echoed through every eye, overlapping into a storm of sound. The day itself became a hallucination, crafted by his will. Mr.Sun's transformation turned grotesque, his surface cracked like dead stone. A massive, blood-filled eye bulged from the center, swollen and restless. Dark rays dripped with fluid, twitching as if alive. He began breeding eyes inside his body, releasing them one by one. They rolled away, each carrying a shard of his gaze. At night, they crept into homes, climbing onto sleeping faces. The sun was not above anymore, it was in every shadow. Mr.Sun's transformation reached a grotesque peak. He was no longer a star, but a wound in the heavens. The enormous eye shifted constantly, veins pulsing with violent rhythm. The cracks around it spread wider, oozing black and red fluids. He became addicted to attention, luring mortals to meet his gaze. Their eyes burned, their souls fractured, until nothing of them remained. Every scream only made his stare burn brighter and stronger. The sun was no longer the source of life, it was the thief of it. Mr.Sun's transformation reached horror beyond recognition. His eye was no longer just sight, it was a furnace and a mouth. Teeth sprouted in bloody rows, circling his gaze. Every word he spoke came out as a roar that shook the world. He played with his prey, staring until they collapsed, then devouring them whole. The screams of the consumed echoed in his orange glow. The sun had become a beast, not a star. Mr.Sun was a monstrous eye, dripping with shadow and gore. His sclera was fractured, lined with rivers of crimson. Around him, spiked darkness spread like a crown of needles. He now collected sanity itself, shredding it into fragments. Those who looked into him saw endless corridors of horror. His laughter echoed in their minds, even after they turned away. The sun had become a curse that no one could escape. Mr.Sun's transformation was almost complete, a demon sun, an eye of domination. The vertical pupil widened, drawing minds into its abyss. His rays spread like blackened spikes, forming a crown of terror. He no longer needed screams. Silence itself became his weapon. He enjoyed bending people to his will, watching them betray themselves. Every thought they believed was already planted by him. The sun was no longer above them, it was inside them. Mr. Sun had become a shell of darkness, radiating red haze. His eye no longer looked outward, it devoured inward, collapsing reality. The tiny black core inside him throbbed with infinite hunger. He delighted in crafting doubles, reflections of the living. These shadows replaced their originals seamlessly, erasing them from memory. Entire villages could vanish overnight, yet still appear alive. The sun had become the author of false worlds. Mr. Sun's eye stared with merciless calm, while his mouth tore reality apart. Every ray ended in blood-soaked edges, twitching like blades. The circle of teeth opened wider, swallowing both shadow and light. He delighted in shredding bodies, pulling them into his abyss. Every victim fed his glow, making the pale eye brighter. Silence followed his feasts, broken only by distant echoes of chewing. The sun was no longer light, it was consumption incarnate. Mr. Sun's form grew still, a star-shaped wound with a hollow eye. No light escaped him, he swallowed even the dimmest glow. The eye no longer blinked, for it was not alive but abyss. He played with existence itself, plucking pieces away one by one. Voices faded first, then faces, then whole souls collapsed into nothing. The world could not remember what it lost, only the silence left behind. The sun was no longer a star, it was the grave of reality. Her maracas sparkled with a light, playful sound, like raindrops tapping on green leaves. Raddy's drumming added power and heartbeat to the song, steady and full of energy. Their music together was colorful, bright, and alive. It felt like a carnival made of sound, with laughter hiding in every note. In that moment, Sprunki became a place where fun had no end. At this phase, Raddy and Vineria looked as though they were preparing for a night performance. His body turned a darker crimson, glowing like metal pulled from the forge. Her green faded, and her stare carried a strange, haunting depth. Together they built the feeling of a mystical concert, each beat sounding heavier. It was a shift from playful fun to something serious and mysterious. Vineria's beauty dissolved into horror. Her vines darkened and her new eyes stared endlessly into the void. Every sound she made felt like a scream torn from the forest itself. Raddy's face was split between flesh and bone, his teeth exposed in a wicked smile. The drums no longer sounded playful, but like war calls from another world. Phase 2 was the moment Sprunki became something monstrous and unforgettable. Raddy's face split further, revealing a half-metal grin that rattled with each beat. His body seemed patched together, a broken puppet of flesh and steel. Vineria, with her screaming mask and hollow gaze, moved as though carried by some unseen curse. The sound of their instruments became chaotic, filling the air with terror. Phase 2.5 was the mark of their full descent into monstrous performers. Vineria's monstrous form towered with bleeding vines, her face now an endless cry frozen in terror. Above her, the eye pulsed like a beacon of doom. Raddy had become skeletal, his body broken into ribs and teeth, his horns like blades dripping with shadows. Every sound they made struck like a ritual chant, heavy and merciless. In Phase 3, the Sprunki stage became an altar of fear. Raddy had become a symbol of decay, his skull split and nailed into a grotesque totem. Each motion he made creaked like breaking bones. Vineria towered over him, sprouting stalks of unblinking eyes, her mouth still bleeding with endless screams. Together, their sound was a ritual chant, echoing like doom itself. Phase 3.5 turned their band into a monstrous ceremony of sound and fear. Raddy's transformation was complete, his face split open, a spear of horror bursting through. Every beat of his drum echoed like a funeral march. Vineria, with her raised stalk, resembled a prophet of doom, carrying an endless void where her eyes should be. The two no longer played for joy, but for chaos itself. In Phase 4, their music became the sound of the end. Vineria's transformation was almost complete. She stood as a nightmare idol, her gaze replaced by endless voids. Raddy, his skull pierced and hollow, looked like a totem of agony. Their sound thundered like a storm of knives, cutting through silence with every strike. No trace of their former band remained, only the ritual survived. In Phase 4.5, Sprunki's stage was consumed by horror. Raddy had become a lifeless totem, suspended in chains, bleeding shadows through his broken frame. His mouth clattered with a sound like rusted drums. Vineria, no longer a spirit of nature, shone with an alien glow, her eyes multiplying across her body. Together they created a hymn of destruction, every note a prophecy of doom. In Phase 5, Sprunki became a stage of apocalypse. Ready for a challenge? According to statistics, only 3% of viewers manage to like the video and subscribe to the channel before the timer runs out. Write a comment if you made it in time. Raddy was nothing but ruin, his face carved open by steel, his bones trembling under invisible weight. His drumbeat was silence broken by the sound of tearing metal. Vineria stretched her arms wide, each hand carrying an unblinking, bleeding eye, her central gaze swallowing all light. Their music had turned into an unholy chant that drowned the world in dread. In Phase 6, the band no longer existed, only the ritual survived. Chains rattled as Raddy's skull swung, his jaw clattering with broken rhythm, his chest hollow and bleeding. His entire form was a relic of torment, a nightmare given shape. Vineria grinned unnaturally, her wide teeth gleaming, her eyes crimson and wild, her hands gripping bleeding orbs. Together, they summoned terror with every movement. In Phase 7, their band dissolved into pure horror, a final act of eternal fear. Raddy's monstrous eye burned through the darkness, framed by knives and torn flesh, his heart dangling as his last instrument. He was no longer flesh, but a nightmare machine of blood and steel. Vineria, crowned in glowing green, raised her arms in dreadful triumph, her countless eyes reflecting eternity. Their sound turned into a storm of chaos, flooding every corner of Sprunki. In Phase 8, they became eternal, the gods of fear. Vineria's monstrous eyes gleamed, her form stretching as if the void itself was watching through her. Every step she took resonated like thunder across the cursed stage. Raddy, impaled and chained, glared with his empty sockets, the red sun painting him as a death idol. Their performance was no longer human, but cosmic. In Phase 9, Sprunki had become a stage of eternal fear. Raddy's head, half machine and half corpse, dangled like a cursed mask under heavy chains. His sockets were empty, but still bled rhythm into the air. Vineria became a multi-armed idol, her face shredded into darkness, her hands presenting orbs of horror. The stage pulsed like a living wound, every sound a stab of terror. In Phase 9.5, Sprunki itself seemed to collapse into their monstrous forms. Vineria's form no longer resembled anything human, her laughter echoing through hollow sockets filled with glowing eyes. Her monstrous arms stretched wide, each movement tearing through silence with unbearable dread. Raddy's chained skull rattled, his broken ribs clattering like cursed percussion. Their sound grew into a storm, drowning every trace of melody, leaving only horror. In Phase 10, Sprunki itself crumbled under their apocalyptic symphony. Vineria stretched into a towering creature, her glowing green eyes blazing brighter than ever. Her arms sprouting with bleeding orbs, she moved like a nightmarish serpent, twisting with impossible grace. Raddy swayed in the chains, his skull broken, dripping rivers of crimson into the void. Their music was unbearable, a storm of terror that crushed everything around them. Phase 11 was the true collapse of Sprunki's stage. Raddy's flaming skull grinned with sharpened teeth, dripping chains clattering like a death march. His form was unrecognizable, a demon forged in pain and fire. Vineria rose as his equal, a twisted goddess of eyes and screams, her voice splitting the void. Together they played not music, but the anthem of collapse. Phase 12 ended the tale in apocalyptic crescendo,